Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth and final episode of Monitoring Java Applications on Azure. Please check in on today's event. The check-in link is on the screen, which is aka.ms/react to check-in, and the event ID is 14780. My name is Rav, and I'm the program manager at React London. We have all our upcoming events can be found on the Microsoft Reactor website. Before we get into the session, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn, so please be respectful and mindful of each other and understanding, and be kind and considerate in the way you engage. Today, we have with us Rory, cloud advocate at Microsoft, and Trask, who is the principal software engineer at Microsoft. They both will be leading the session, so I'm going to add Trask to the stream. Hey, Trask.
Hey, Rav. Thanks.
Over to you now.
All right. So let me share the right screen. Okay. Today is the fourth and last of our series. And so wanted to start with talking about kind of summarizing a little bit the Azure Monitor best practices. So there's a lot of great documentation out there on the Microsoft Docs to help you get started. The Cloud Adoption Framework goes through and talks about all the different layers in the stack and how to approach monitoring from that perspective. There's also some great monitoring scenario cookbooks. The Azure Monitor Best Practices is a great place to start. And then if you are for specific compute environments, there are also really nice cookbooks that target those environments like VM monitoring and AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service monitoring. So I'm just going to go through sort of how to approach, because we've showed you so much in these sessions, and it can be a little overwhelming. So sort of trying to outline how to approach monitoring your cloud applications at scale. So let's dive into first just planning. Of course, one of the key parts of monitoring is understanding your service level agreements. What are your targets for your application? Whether it will typically be response time metrics, whether you probably like a 95th percentile metrics. So you'll want to set up monitoring around and alerting around those service level agreements, as well as then tracking historically so you can see how you are doing against those metrics. As far as building out your monitoring architecture, the log analytics workspace is the key component. This is where all of the data gets stored. So when we went in to create app services and enable diagnostic logging, all of that data flows into log analytics. So it's recommended to use as few log analytics workspaces as possible. You may need separate ones if you have data sovereignty constraints, for example, GDPR. Otherwise, it's recommended to use just as few as possible. And remember that all of the resources, all of the application, all of the Azure resources that feed data into the log analytics workspaces, you still can slice the single log analytics workspace by those resources. So you can see here, central teams, you can give them workspace access, so they have access to all the data in that log analytics workspace. But you can also give teams access to just specific resources, and then they will have access to the data in log analytics that those resources pushed. Variable data retention. Sometimes you need to keep around security and audit logs for much longer, so you can configure that. And then there's an option to have a dedicated log analytics cluster that enables advanced capabilities, primarily around security that some customers require. Next, the Application Insights resource. These are the resources that we created and showed you the application map, the performance pages, error pages, end-to-end transaction views. So these, we typically recommend setting up one application resource, insights resource, for your whole microservices application. So instead of a separate application insights resource per node or per service, it's typically we find most convenient to put all of those into one application insights resource, and you separate those using the role name that you assign in your app when you connect your application to application insights, and that's how you can slice and dice. Data security is, of course, a huge issue, and depending on your organizational requirements, there are a lot of data security features that you can take advantage of, from authenticated ingestion, which is an additional layer of authentication on top of your telemetry ingestion. And this would be the telemetry coming from Application Insights Java agent in this case. There's the private link, Azure Monitor private link service, AMPLS. This makes it really easy to use Azure Monitor in a inside of a private VNet with private endpoints. And then the dedicated log analytics clusters that I mentioned, this probably the most popular feature there is the customer managed keys. If you have a dedicated log analytics cluster, you can have your own encryption key, which then gives you the final say on who can see that data or not. Onboarding, the data collection. So again, data collection is all about getting all of these monitoring data into the log analytics workspace where it can drive the Azure Monitor experiences. So remember, we set up diagnostic settings for app services. I believe we've showed how to set that up also for VMs, and I believe Rory is going to show how to do that for SQL databases later in this session. So there are other ways of getting data in. The Azure Monitor agent will push data from the guest operating system, though in most Azure environments that is already integrated, and you will already be getting operating system metrics automatically. And then Azure Monitor Insights for virtual machines, AKS, the container insights, and SQL insights, which is what Rory is going to, one of the things Rory is going to show later, are really powerful additions to getting more data in that helps with analyzing root cause of problems. And again, these are enabled through just click of a button in the Azure portal. Super easy to onboard. And then the codeless application monitoring, this is what we have shown with the Application Insights Java agent, how easy it is to just throw in the -java agent arg to your Java command line args and point it at your Application Insights resource, and you get all of the request metrics, request telemetry, individual request telemetry, outgoing dependencies, exceptions, logs, all an incredible amount of just rich data that powers the Application Insights user experiences, as well as makes it really easy to then go in and set up alerts and troubleshoot when bad things happen. And then the last piece of data collection, right? These have been all automatic data collection, where you just either click a button in the portal to enable or add an agent to your command line. Sometimes you may have additional instrumentation that you want to capture, additional telemetry you want to capture about your application that is specific to your application, specific to the frameworks you use. And so you can do that. You can manually instrument your application in the Java world with the Java agent. You can use OpenTelemetry API, which is to instrument your application, send additional telemetry. The Java agent will capture that, correlate that data with all of the automatic instrumentation that it captures, and send all of that into Application Insights. As well as if you want to capture additional logs, you can use Log4j, Logback, Java util logging. The agent will automatically capture your custom logs. And then metrics, the Java agent will capture your micrometer metrics. So if there are particular metrics you want to capture additionally that are not automatically captured, that's very easy. You'll definitely want to watch the cost. Keep an eye on the general for Application Insights cost is based on ingestion. So there are a lot of ways to optimize that cost. One of the most important is to set an appropriate data cap. This will, while you don't want to hit that data cap, so you want to set it to something that is larger than you expect to hit on a normal day, at least that will prevent a bill shock if your application should go haywire and end up sending just way too much telemetry, trying to ingest too much telemetry. Just remember, if you hit that daily cap, it will stop collecting. The ingestion service will just start rejecting all additional telemetry for the remainder of the day. So you will have a blind spot then. You won't be able to see what's happening in your application. But it is still an important safety guard. Sampling is probably the best way to optimize cost. You can very easily set the sampling rate for the Java agent to say 10%, and the Java agent will capture 10% of the traces that flow through your application. The great thing about the way that sampling is done is the Java agent will capture 10% of the full transactions. So as the request flows through your microservices, it passes the trace ID downstream, and it also passes the sampling decision that was made upstream, downstream, so that once it decides to sample, you will get a complete full end-to-end trace there, as opposed to getting mismatches and not being able to see your full traces. And then there is the Azure Advisor, which is a really nice service to keep an eye on. It will, among other things, give you hints about optimizing cost. Alerts and workflows. It's really important to, alerts are very tricky to set up correctly. It can be very enticing to set up alerts on everything. You want to know all these things, but it's important to only set alerts on actionable items, things that are, you really indicate that something is wrong in the system and you need somebody to wake up and do something about it. A common problem in the industry is alert fatigue, where you send too many alerts and people start ignoring them. Setting up a alert management workflow, so integrating with other systems and ticketing systems, things that you can have then people log in and say, yes, I accept this, I'm working on it. Okay, this is resolved. Those are important to set up to make it easier for the people having to respond to the alerts. And lastly, the alerts. There are automated workflows you can do on alerts. So as you start to see that certain types of alerts require certain actions, you can set those up automatically. In particular, auto scaling is a great one to set up. And if we are lucky and have time, we may get a demo of that today also. Moving from monitoring, I think what monitoring and observability and what the difference there is maybe ambiguous, but I would say often people think of that as monitoring as metrics, what's happening in my system, and observability is more deeper diagnostic data, traces, individual queries, things that tell you why the problem happened, allowing you to get to root causes. Simulated load testing. I wanted to call out that just 2 weeks ago, Azure load testing preview was released. This looks like a really cool service. Highly recommend checking it out. I remember the first thing that I ever used the cloud for many years ago was load testing, because it was such a perfect way to spin up, all these servers, run your load test, shut them down, only pay for that time that you were using all the machines, as opposed to previously in the previous world, we all had to purchase load testing labs, and that was expensive, and typically those labs would get left unused most of the time. And then don't forget about the dynamic threshold alerting that Rory showed before. That's a really powerful capability that can make life easier. And lastly, choosing your dashboarding solution. So we demoed Azure Dashboard and how easy it is to go from application insights and log analytics to writing queries to pinning things on your dashboards. So that's a really nice way to provide, all right. I don't know how long I was muted for. Thank you, Rory. So in Grafana, one advantage there is it does support multi-cloud. so which is a popular scenario. And then Azure Workbooks. We didn't touch on Azure Workbooks in the sessions, but this is a really nice feature that is similar to dashboarding, but more interactive so as it's a great sort of your run books, your things that an alert fires, and then you can say, okay, go to this workbook, and kind of helps you to drill down into identifying at least a quick mitigation, if not a root cause. So with that, I wanted to jump over into, so again, that's a lot of stuff, right, that monitoring covers. There's a lot of reasons why we monitor, but I really like to be very practical about why, oops, sorry. Let me fix that. All right. So I really like to be very practical about, where to start and how to get started. What I like to focus on is, why do we monitor? And one of the, sorry, just having screen sharing. Let's fix that. So the main reason that we monitor is, right, typically to keep production running smooth. So I really recommend focusing on that throughout your initial monitoring journey, at least. And so the first thing the first step, and we'll come back to sort of the second step, but here you need the data in order to drive these things, right? And so the easiest way to get that data, and I wanted to remind you how simple it is to create an application insights resource and hook up the application insights Java agent. So remember creating a resource, application insights. I will put in my default group, pet clinic, and hit the create button. And this takes just a couple of seconds. And from this, we will get a connection string. So we have the connection string here. And then we also need to download the Java agent itself. So that is available here. And you will not need authentication here. This is because of the GitHub Microsoft authentication anytime I access Microsoft resources. So that will download the Java agent. And then, I was not sharing the right screen. Apologies. Over here, to run it, right, normally we run the java-jar, our Spring Pet Clinic. So for the Java agent, we just add that one command line arg. Of course, and I did this the last time, forgetting to put in the application insights connection string. So we're going to do export the application insights connection string that we just pulled from our resource, and then rerun it. And now we are feeding all of the data into all of the basic telemetry data that we need in order to really launch our monitoring journey. So going back to this, so now that we have data flowing into application insights, what should we focus on, right? There's again a lot of reasons why we monitor, but I highly recommend focusing initially on, the key thing, which is keep production running smooth. And so the most important thing there is alerting, right? You need to know when production is not running smooth. And so there's sort of, I would say, 3 different types of very common alerts that really can help with this. Availability. And if you recall, we showed in application insights how simple it is to set up availability tests. And those availability tests will automatically set up, sorry, just sharing issues. So those availability tests will automatically set up alerts to let you know when things are down. And you can set those availability alerts to run from multiple regions, and a lot of things to help tune those availability alerts. So again, they don't give you false positives and lead to alert fatigue. So availability alerts probably the biggest bang for your buck, right? They're super easy to set up, and they tell you, a very high signal to noise ratio when your application is gone bad. But often we can do better than that. If we look at performance alerts, performance degradation often leads to availability problems. So if we can alert on performance problems like, hey, our performance has exceeded a certain threshold, our response times, that's often a good indicator that something is wrong that we need to go in and investigate. Similar with error alerts, setting up alerts on the number of errors that your application is receiving can help there. And then, of course, once you get, so these are high-level metrics that drive your alerts. And then once your team receives an alert, then the next step, right, is mitigating that. So you want to mitigate that as quickly as possible. So this is where the dashboards and runbooks and really can help to drill in and see what the problem is in a way that you can mitigate it. You don't necessarily need to get to the root cause for mitigation, right? To keep production running smooth, you want to get it back up as quickly as possible. And then root cause is really where you need to dive down into the gory details. And often, this is where the power of having all of that data stored in log analytics, all of that request data, dependency data, trace data, exception data, log data in log analytics allows you to run arbitrary custo queries against all of that data, joining things together and finding the root cause of the problem. I really hope that you have a great monitoring journey and that this helps you plan how to get going and what to focus on in your early monitoring days. Rory.
Yeah, no, I do the breaking now. So now I'm going to simulate exactly what you've done there, and I'm going to show exactly like what the real world developer is going to see when they break an Azure Spring Cloud instance, and then we're going to go through that. Is it my turn now, Trask? Am I going to? Yeah. Let me take everything you've done and put it in half an hour and see how we can go there. Okay, so you should see my screen here. This is the demo that we put in the Azure Monitoring demo, so aka.ms/ monitor-java, and in that you get a Azure Spring Cloud instance that you've set up. And while Charles was speaking, I was pummeling my instance with thousands of sessions to actually get it to take load, and then to analyze that load and to implement some reactionary changes there. So this is my instance here, the Azure Spring Cloud. And if you go into the Azure Spring Cloud, it's called Insights RPZA. It's your pet clinic application, and it's got your customer service. It's got your owner service here, your veterinary service here. So if I click on owners, I get all the list of owners. I can go to each individual owner there. I can edit the owner, and we've seen this. We've done this demo quite a few times over the session there. Edit pet and submit pet, and I'm creating telemetry right now, but I actually did a load test, just a script there, but you can use the Azure load test service there, and I ran some telemetry checks against the order scaling for Azure Spring Cloud. So as Charles was busy speaking, I actually set the customer service here. You can see that it's got running instance of one node, but if I click on customer service, you'll see there that the load history and the scale out history there shows that it just recently scaled up and scaled down as soon as it didn't have any load. So we go to run history, and a few seconds ago, actually 20 minutes ago when Charles had just started there, I set it to scale up to 2 instances. You can scale up to 500 instances if you wanted to. And then I've got my telemetry, my logs here. So scale up completed, and then it scaled down. And what I did there is I took a metric called Tomcat global request count, and this is a metric, and we covered this in the sessions there, and I did an average, so average Tomcat global request count, and I set it up here, the Spring Cloud standard metrics. When the global request count exceeds a certain limit, and I put it here 50, so 50 sessions, concurrent sessions, and I put like 200 over a period of 1 minute. So if there's more than 50 sessions over 1 minute, then increase the count by 1, and the cooldown meaning that it goes and tests it again. But you can go and you can increase that count not only by count, but also by the percentage of how many available servers. And then you've got the maximum limit there, and you can set it up to 500. But then when the load actually diminishes, then you scale back in. And then you've got scale out when the count is greater than, and you can see there, greater than 50, and then scale back in when it's actually less than that. And you can run this also with PowerShell, with SH scripts, with a lot of scripts, but this is built into Azure Spring Cloud, and it scales up under load, and then it scales back in and gets that really great cost cutting there. So this is one of the things that Charles just mentioned there around reactionary changing to accommodate some of the performance. And we've seen this with Black Friday. As soon as people stop shopping in October, November, they put loads on the services, and then they want to be able to scale up, but then they scale down when the shopping stops there. And this is really a great way to do this. So you can go in and play around with the demo that I set up with you in the monitoring demo. And there's also just underneath that monitoring demo, I've just launched an auto-scaling Learn module, Microsoft Learn module, that you can go in there, and it shows you exactly what I've mentioned here on how to set up all of that telemetry. So once you have all of that and you started to do that, I want to show you how to monitor from start to finish and really have a end-to-E. We call it at Microsoft an E2E a monitoring solution based on your telemetry. But to do that, let's go in and instrument from the front end all the way to the database. And we'll be able to see that application insights map all the way from the front end to the database. So we've got our application here, and I want to go in and instrument the API gateway, because in the API gateway, it's the only place that actually keeps static content, because it uses an Angular a single page application, and it has an Angular front end. And the rest of these services here are actually just microservices. The customer service, vet service, and visit service. They're just a REST service there that the API gateway calls in Angular. So I've got my application, and the script that we set up there goes in and sets up Azure samples there. It sets up a repository, a Git repository, based on the Azure Samples Spring Pet Link microservices, which actually is a fork from the official Spring Pet Link microservices there. And in this there, you've got all of these projects here that are linked to the microservice. You've got the customer service, you've got the gateway service. So I'm going to open this up in code. In the you can see that I just dropped down the code, opening GitHub desktop, and then I'm going to go in there and just go open in Visual Studio Code. And I've now got it open, the project in Visual Studio Code. Let's close all of that there. And I've got my index.html. So let's go here and let's go reveal in Finder. That's a great, not reveal in Finder, reveal in sidebar. Reveal in sidebar. And so this service, this index.html you see here, let's make that a little bit bigger because I've got glasses and you might have glasses. So this page here is in the Spring Pet Link API gateway. So you've got your customer service, your vet service, your discovery service, but in the API gateway, we've got an HTML page, which kind of like serves everything. It's got little scriptlets, AngularJS scriptlets here, and you've got your app here. So let's make that a little bit bigger. You've got your HTML app here, you've got your ng, so it's going to run a single page routing, internal routing, and then you've got your head with your meta information there, your scripts. So it's going to run jQuery, it's going to run Angular, the minimized Angular, a UI router, and then it's got your script source here, the owner list, the owner details, and all of those other controllers there that are going to call those REST service. So if we go into, like, for example, owner controller.js, so let's go into here, and we're going to go into, let's go into scripts. No, that's Chaos Monkey, which this demo actually runs Chaos Monkey. You can go download it, and it does that also here. So we want to go into static scripts, like for example, owner details, and then it's got the owner detail controller, and then it actually calls the microservice API gateway owners, and then with the actual owner ID, and it's a Angular module that is called. So that HTML then it imports all of those scripts, and then right at the end of it, I've actually gone in and put in a little bit of JavaScript here, just a little bit of JavaScript that it has a very simple function. This adds telemetry. So I've got my application insights that we set up with the monitoring module, the little demo that we set up, and then it includes a little instrumentation key. And in that instrumentation key, you can add configuration settings to what you want to monitor. So I've got the little JavaScript, and it's in our Microsoft Docs settings there. And in the module right at the end of the summary page, it actually shows you how to do all of this. And then I've got the configuration and the JavaScript there. It's going to take that source file, which is the accessibility insights. And then I've got the instrument key there that I have pasted in there. It's a little key there, a little hash there. And then I've got some settings that I've set up to enable end-to-end routing with a single page application. Now, if you've got a standard HTML page, it's much easier because it's just page to page to page. But with single page applications, you have to enable certain settings. And one of them is correlation, which means that the backend and the front end need to know that they're talking to each other. So I've got some settings here that we've enabled. And the next one is if you want to monitor single page application states, you have to enable auto route tracking. So it's going to enable the route tracking of the Angular, the page. And then I want to also just do time on page tracking to see how long I'm spending on each page though. So I've got this, and then I simply go in and run my Maven project there. I go package. So I run my Maven project, and this is going to take my HTML in my project, and it's going to go in and create a jar file for me. And I'm going to take that jar file, and then I'm just going to chuck it over to Azure Spring Cloud. And it's pretty simple, and you can run this at home. Now, the normal monitoring demo, it actually runs in an Azure Cloud Shell. So you can just take the same project and fork it, or if you want to, or play around with it. Okay, so that's finished there. Now I can go into my Azure Spring Cloud little window here. And you can see there, I've got, let's minimize that there, my Spring Cloud, my window here, and I've got my API gateway, and I can just right click on API gateway, and then I can go deploy. It's going to ask me what jar file do you want to do. And now when I had that jar file, I zipped up all of the CSS and all of that HTML into that. And then I've got my little jar file there, and I can just go select. Now I'm hacking each of the individual apps there to get it to work. And I can right click on the API gateway, and I can actually see the deployment happen and the startup here. So I can go to app instances here, to API gateway, and as it's uploading here, I can right click here and go start streaming logs. So and it will open up the log streaming here with the services here, but we're not expecting to see anything dramatic here because we haven't really hit that service there. But you'll see there that it's actually going to go in and let's make that a little bit bigger. And it's going to go in there. It's going to stop the service down. Remember, this is Kubernetes. It's going to graceful shutdown complete. Oh, thank you so much. You're graceful. And then it's unregistering with the API gateway. This is a microservice, so it actually takes the service out there with the service there. It shut down the instance there. And then it's going to proceed to actually go in and bring it up with the new changes we got. And now once we have those changes, I've already been kind of, while Charles was talking, going and hitting it a few times to add that telemetry. Remember, I just went in there and I created telemetry with that API gateway. So let's go see if we can spot, and this is a live demo, so I'm going to see if I can spot that instance that I did there when I went into owner service and vet and visit service. I'm going to just get one instance there with that HTML and see if I can actually spot it. Else I've got a backup that I've kind of hidden a little bit around there. So let's go into, let's close this here. So we've got our Azure Spring Cloud, and we want to go into application insights. And we want to see, can we see from the front end all the way back through to the database? And then I'm going to show you afterwards how to actually do proper database monitoring here. So here's my application insights. And we're going to go to application map because we want to see the telemetry, the end-to-end telemetry. And then we're going to set out for the last 30 minutes for that telemetry. I'm going to go apply for the last 30 minutes. I'm going to minimize that there. Remember, we're doing a deployment in the background also, but we shouldn't actually notice anything in the deployment. Let me just make that zoom there. The demos are always very interesting when I do zooming there. And there, you can see there's the 9 views. We've got 9 views of our page already. And in the last 30 minutes, and that's our client there that we have. And now we've got new telemetry because we've got a page, a web page that's been instrumented with HTML. It could be React, it could be Angular, it could be plain old HTML, it could be JSF or ASP, any of that. And I can click on that, and now I get a view here. You can see that there. I get the welcome page, the owner's edit page, and the pets page. And I can click on the welcome page, and I can go through and see now it's got a new browser view here. So I've got the server view, which we demoed a lot there. And the server view allows you to see operations. So let's go minimize that a little bit there. And we want to go in the last 30 minutes. We want to see all the operations there. And we want to get those database calls, or maybe not. It might still be doing the telemetry there. So let's do the last hour and let's see if we can get some telemetry. Else we'll go, I think I've got the roles. There we go. I needed those roles there also. So let's do that there. And then let's get some, so last hour there. And now we've got all of the telemetry. Then you can see there, that's a Spark that we just did recently when I load balanced with Task. Then you can see that's a big kind of telemetry that we've got there. And the delta went up. It's actually, the HTML get was quicker, but the actual get owners was slower. And why would get owners flows? Because we're putting load in the database. So let's go and see if we go into get owners. Can we see what's going there? Now, the operations, we can see the end-to-end operations with get owners, but this is the REST service. So if we click through the samples, we can see on the server side, but we also want to see the browser side. So we can click on the browser, and now we can actually see all of the pages that we get. So now you can see welcome, owners, owner details, owner edit, and owner pets. That's exactly what we did. We did that. So I can click on owners here, and now I can go in and drill down to those samples. So I can drill down into those samples, and you can see there, I've got all that telemetry, and I can click through all of that telemetry. The only caveat is that sometimes it's a little bit hard. I'm not going deep into the Angular page. I'm really not. I'm not. You have to enable a lot more routing with that. But you can see here, now I get a lot more insights in my my items here. Let's go a little bit bigger. These demos are always difficult when you've got too much data. Now I can see here, I've got, okay, cool. I get to the customer service. It gets the owners, and it took 33 milliseconds to get the owners. Now it gets the filtering web handler, which is the API gateway, which takes an additional 41 milliseconds. And the entire service end-to-end that we did over there for find all owners is 321 milliseconds for that page, for that engagement. But this only shows the get owners. I want to get a little bit more than just get owners. I want to get, we did a lot there. We did get pets, get vets, get all of that. So I've got a little setup, and I've got the transaction that I want to show you here that I went and found a little bit while Charles was talking. And this is the end-to-end transaction data, except the only difference here is that this actually goes in and shows you end-to-end with the vet service and also the pet service, and shows you how the user engaged with that. So in this example here, we get pet types, and it actually goes and gets the pet types there with the pet page. And you can see there it's getting and it shows you exactly what page it's getting and what the URL is there. And then from there, it actually goes in and gets find the individual pet that we are referencing, and then get the service and the customer service, because you go back to the root of the page there and gets those customer services there. And then does it again, because I kind of like stress tested. So, but this is a little bit more detail, because this is a blown up page there. But what about if I wanted to get more insights to what the user did? Now, we have cohorts. Now, cohorts is users and sessions and page views that you can actually click through. You can see here, see what happened before and after this request and user flows. See trend of this request over time, see available telemetry. So I can click on the user flows here. And the whole world changes now, because now I'm actually going to get user flows, and I can see all of the telemetry and all of the changes with that the telemetry. So I can go in here and see that's where just pets and pets ID. But I can actually go and see that's put there. But let's go in, and I don't want to go back there. I want to click on right at the top there. Right at the top service there, and see exactly what. Let's click on that, and now I can go and get user flows here. So show what happened to the dependency in user flows, and now I can see the end-to-end with the getting data. So operation started, they went and found the pet. So I'm actually started on get API pet types there, get API pet types, Spring Framework. It goes and gets those pets and gets the owners for the pets, retrieves that information and sends them back to the get. Now I can go back and I can go into, instead of pets, I can go to all of these services for the script types here. So I can actually go in and find pets, and I want to go into even the SQL statements there. So I can go into get owner and create graph. And it starts to actually look a little bit more like a subway here, because I can get the entire user and what they did there. So over here, the operation started, they updated the owners, they got the list of the owners there. But you can see there, they've got 5 operations. They retrieved then the pet for that owner. They filtered it back to the gateway. Then they went in and found the owners again and went back there and did some more select statements there. So this is a great way, and this is end-to-end transaction details, but this forms a different part of application insights, because what this is actually part of is another section that we haven't covered there, called the usage section. And then the usage section here, you can see there that we've got users, session, events, funnels, user flow, cohorts, and more. It's covering with workbooks here. And all of that sessions you can actually now access under users. Because I added telemetry with my users, I can actually get the users in the last 24 hours. And I curled this with my stress testing. You can see here, I've got view more insights here. You'll see there that it actually picks up that I'm curling and where the actual curl came from, which I was quite stunned. I was in the Netherlands there. I've got curling from the Netherlands. In South Africa, because I'm based in South Africa, with my Mac browser there, and you can get all of the views there. But it also says performance is unacceptable because I'm running on a very small instance and I'm doing a lot and I'm stress testing. So it's actually telling me performance is unacceptable. And then how many events that I did, because I stress tested it with 3,000 events there. How many sessions did I do? You can actually go into performance and see why the performance is unacceptable. You can go into sessions, and now you can see the individual sessions and how long the individual took. So you can see there, I've got more insights here and how long the sessions took. So there were 2 users here. The users had active sessions. You can see the view session timelines. So you can go into there, and now you can see this session here. Wow, he did a lot. He had 22 page views. I can click through on each one of those page views and get the end-to-end transaction view for those page views. You can see in that page view here, all he did was just went in and accessed the front page. But you can get a lot more insights, and you can go and track through it. And understand, if you're going to use Angular or React, you have to add a lot more telemetry to go through that. So that's sessions. Then events, you can actually do click-throughs. So every button, every page, you can get an event. So this is not that many events here. So the events here is just downloading and going to 1 or 2 pages. And you can see here, we've got event statistics. So events, get vets, get pets here. And we didn't do a lot in the last 30 minutes. But you can see here how many counts. But overall, we had 2,795 because I was stress testing the customer service to go in and scale it out there. So let's just find the customer. There we go. There's the actuator health, and there's the somewhere there, the get owner service there that is really going to be stress tested here. And you can click through each one of those events and see like put owner's pet ID when we did that submission to that pet. And you can see the end-to-end transaction details all the way down to the database. And then come back to it with the user flows to see exactly how did the user actually go in there. So this example here is put pet. And then I can go in there into user flows and see where did they actually get from that. And I can go, okay, I'm going to go into 9 steps before and 9 steps after. And I can go in and find out what is the telemetry around that and that user and that engagement. Because really what you want to do there when you add that level of telemetry is see, are you adding services that the customer uses for the funnel? The funnel is all of the users, they need to access certain services. And the funnel really has the top step and the bottom step from the front end to the back end. And you do that with telemetry, with application insights. So that you can see there, the top step here, might be a page view, and the secondary step might also be a different view there. And you can view those steps there, and you can create a cohort that creates all of that telemetry for those steps and gives you insights into that. You can export that and use log analytics to get that. We've seen user flows. This is how you create a cohort there. Now, I've got a little bit more time. I want to show you SQL monitoring. So in the demo that I had there, you actually can activate SQL monitoring as part of the monitoring demo there. And in the demo, you get a lot more telemetry with SQL monitoring. So I'm going to go to the SQL instance here. And now under SQL monitoring, with that instance that we have there, you can get the transactions, but I can also see performance recommendations and query performance insights. So this is on MySQL. And now you can see here, I've got the long-running queries and weight statistics. So long-running queries, it's monitoring the database there to say, what are the long-running queries? And you can see there, select owner was the longest running query there. And I've got executions, 231 executions there. And you can see that you can now start to just focus on your database. If you have database performance issues there, you can go in and say, do I need an index? So I've got my long-running queries, and then I've got my weight statistics. And this will go show your the locks on your database. So over here, I've got select pets here, and it shows you what your lock types are, how long the locks take, and why they needed to be done there. And then once you have all of this information, you can go into performance recommendations, and you can run statistics on here. You can see analyze there. I can run analysis here, and this will go in and run and see, do I need to run indexing on my database? So you've got your end-to-end. I've instrumented my front end. I've got all of my cohorts right down to the database. I then go into my MySQL database and go in and analyze the performance data for that. And all of this time, at the same time, it's all using log analytics and also data to make this really a meaningful observability. At the same time, I've got it's busy running there. I've got the ability on the database to go into and run logs. So I can click on logs, and we saw how you could use logs there. And I can go into my diagnostics here, onto my queries, and I can get my performance logs, and I can show the slowest query here. And this is KQL, crystal query, and I can just run this. And I've activated diagnostic settings there. Now I can get slow logs here on all of the database queries here of the top 5 if I wanted to get. I can even get each query statistics all the way down to how many queries are running, what are the top queries that I'm running here in the last 24 hours, and all of those different queries. So it's really an end-to-end experience that you need to do. So you've got all of those recommendations, the trusted, all of those 6 sections there, and then finally also his recommendations where we started. And thank you all for staying with us for the 4 sessions. I'm hoping it's been meaningful. I'm going to bring Trask back on and Rav, and we're going to say a nice goodbye with this, and we're also going to give some insights to how we experienced this session, and maybe upcoming reactor sessions there. So Trask, thank you so much for that. I really enjoyed your slide decks. I learned every time you speak, and I learned so much more there. And hopefully you learned a little bit about me though, because that end-to-end stuff there is just like eye candy of notes though.
I love the browser monitoring. I come from a long background of doing server-side monitoring, and once we started going into browser monitoring, it just gives you, there were some really key visibility, lack of visibility into user experiences. For example, if your browser code has a bug in it, and some button isn't clicking and it's generating an error, you don't see that on the server. There's no visibility into that, and so you completely miss that. And so browser monitoring brings that. It brings performance, so that you can really see, people around the world, how the system is performing for them, versus server-side metrics are only going to count the actual server-side response times. And then the user flows that you showed were just a really like icing on the cake, where you can, and I like your subway subway graphs, where you can really start to get insight into usage of the app and see where maybe people are getting stuck in that usage flow.
And I love how you started off with the session and you said that you need to tune it to make sure you don't get overwhelmed with that. And I do see that Rav's got a nice little slide deck there that we have, and we're almost out of time. So and thank you everyone for the 4 sessions. I'm going to hand over to Rav, who's going to end off the session.
Thanks, Rory. We did have one question from the audience. They said that, is there a ready Power BI solution available connecting to Log Analytics Workspace, which helps you to monitor the cost on Azure? Is that a question you guys can answer, or is that something they can connect with you on?
Yeah.
So I would go in runbooks. The workbooks and runbooks already have a lot of solutions around that of costing and engagement. So have a look at those runbooks. And there's community runbooks. Trask also mentioned on community runbooks. Back to you, Trask.
Yeah, so certainly the dashboards and runbooks are the native Azure solution there, but just the same way that you can push data to Prometheus from Azure Monitor, there are integrations into Power BI as a solution. Power BI tends to be, though, not as good for immediate diagnosis because of the I believe it's a 3-hour time delay or window or refresh rate. But it's great for KPIs and measuring things over a long period of time.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you, Rory and Trask. It was an amazing series. And everybody, this series will be available to watch on demand on the Reactor YouTube channel. All our links are on the screen. You can follow us on Meetup, Twitter, follow us on YouTube. You can sign up to our email for all upcoming events. And obviously, Rory and Trask have promised that they will be coming back with another series, another amazing topic next year. So happy holidays all. And thank you again, Rory and Trask, for this amazing session.
Thanks, Rob. And thanks to the Microsoft Reactor. Thanks.
Thanks.
Cheers,
Take
everyone.
care. Bye, guys. Bye.